You are listening to The Briefing, first broadcast on the 10th of October 2025 on Monocle Radio. Hello and welcome to The Briefing, broadcasting live from Studio One here at Midori House in London. I'm Chris Chermak. Coming up on today's programme.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's so good for Israel.
Israeli forces have begun pulling back from major Gazan cities. Monocle's Leila Molana-Allen will join us to talk about what this ceasefire means and how much credit Donald Trump really deserves. After that, we are joined by Monocle's Tokyo Bureau Chief Fiona Wilson because there is yet another government in trouble. Fiona, what the heck is happening with Japan's politics?
Sanae Takaichi, who was hoping to be Japan's first female prime minister, has had a pretty disastrous day. Her coalition partner has just pulled out of that partnership.
We'll discuss what's next for Japan in just a few minutes with you, Fiona. We'll also get the latest business headlines. And finally, we're sitting down with Nick Manise and Virginia McLeod, the team behind Monocle's handsome new book, Designers on Sofas. All that right here on The Briefing with me, Chris Chermak. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to The Briefing. The long-awaited on-again, off-again ceasefire talks between Hamas and Israel have finally yielded results. Israeli forces have begun pulling back from some major cities in Gaza, allowing Palestinians to return to their homes, or at least what's left of them, and setting the stage for the release of the remaining Israeli hostages held by Hamas, just around 20 believed to still be alive. Well, I'm joined now by Monocle's Middle East correspondent, Leila Molana-Allen. And Leila, this is a positive development. Obviously, Israel's cabinet approved this ceasefire yesterday. Just tell us what's been happening since.
Well, this has happened even faster than we thought it might. Obviously, a hugely positive development. There's been discussion throughout the week. So essentially, this first phase of the deal that's been agreed is roughly along the guidelines of the first phase of the plan in Trump's 20-point peace plan. But Hamas had some questions. They wanted some guarantees because, of course, what happened in March of this year when there was a second phase to that ceasefire deal planned, Israel then pulled out and changed the terms. So the Hamas negotiators wanted guarantees that that wouldn't happen again and this really would mean an end to the war, because this has been done in a slightly strange way. Really only the very first stage of this deal has been agreed. There's still a lot of negotiating to go and there's a lot of nerves that either side could pull out. But of course, more concerned that Israel might pull out because once the hostages have been returned, Hamas doesn't really have any more negotiating cards to play. Those negotiators said that they did get guarantees from the US and from the Qatari and Egyptian negotiators in Sharm el-Sheikh, and so they were willing to go ahead. And so we've actually seen even faster than we expected. Of course, Israel's cabinet agreed on the deal last night, despite some serious objections from hard right members of Netanyahu's government. And it was supposed to go into effect tomorrow morning, but it's actually started this morning. There was heavy bombing overnight in Khan Yunis and Gaza City, but as of this morning, the skies have fallen silent, and already Palestinians are heading north again, and IDF troops have pulled out to the outskirts of Gaza City.
And Leila, as you mentioned, I mean, this was announced by Donald Trump, who will be in the region this weekend. He has been credited with playing quite the role in this. Let's have a listen to a little more from him.
It's amazing the way it's all come together, and it's a beautiful picture. I don't know if it could ever happen again. It was just a set of circumstances, like, for instance, taking out the potential nuclear power of Iran. There's a lot of talent involved, I'll tell you, but there was a certain degree of luck, too. You know, you need luck also.
And Leila, there are still a lot of moving parts to this, as you mentioned, in terms of the talks, but many, even in the region, are crediting Trump with pressure that finally forced Benjamin Netanyahu to agree to a ceasefire. Nevertheless, it has taken a very long time.
It has taken a very long time. It is deeply complex. A big part of the problem, of course, is that the Israeli government has become more and more sort of distant from a deal since the beginning of the year, changing their tack completely and having once said, we've got no interest in occupying Gaza, changing their minds and saying, actually, we're not going to leave Gaza. We want complete security control. We're going to continue this deal. For months, they were saying that the problem was Hamas not agreeing to a new deal. And then when Hamas did over a month ago, they said, no, actually, we're going to go in and have a new offensive in Gaza City instead. So there's been a lot of moving parts. And many people may not like Donald Trump's attitude, the way that he conducts foreign policy. He is a bit of a strong man, a bit of a bully. But many people in the region saying that's exactly what's been needed. The reality is that in 4 years of hand-wringing, and certainly more than a year of this war while the Biden administration was in power, absolutely nothing was done to move this deal forward. President Biden simply was not willing to turn around to Benjamin Netanyahu and say, you must stop, this must stop. And Donald Trump was. It was very clear last week when they had that meeting and then that press conference that Benjamin Netanyahu was extremely uncomfortable, didn't really want to sign up to this peace plan, is hugely pressured by the far-right members of his coalition government, which is, of course, the only way that he's been able to stay in power, several of whom threatened to quit the government and bring the government down if he did agree to the ceasefire deal. And even in that press conference they gave afterwards, while President Trump was saying this is great, the deal's going forward, Netanyahu multiple times said, but of course, if Hamas doesn't completely toe the line, of course, if this happens, then we'll go back to doing things our way. So it was very clear he was pushed into a corner. When the deal was then handed to Hamas, Trump gave them a deadline. It gave them 2 or 3 days. They agreed to that deadline and came back their questions within that time. So it really is, it's him and the huge amount of pressure he's applied. And it's also Steve Witkoff, his chief negotiator, his envoy, who really has been more involved in trying to push through these ceasefire deals than anyone from a US administration has been in years. He's been constantly out in the region. He's been constantly talking to different parties. They've really, importantly, they have brought in Arab leaderships who have long, except for Jordan, kind of been ignored when talking about a peace plan for the Middle East. And instead this time, which sort of goes in line with the Abraham Accords and the fact that they've been trying to achieve normalization between Israel and other Arab states. They've brought in these Arab governments. They've empowered them. They've said, we want you to be leading this. The Qataris have led on this. The Egyptians have led on this. So on 2 points, he's been very good at this. On the one hand, it's the fact that he's a strong man and he's been willing to tell people, it's my way or the highway, take it or leave it, this is happening now, and not be willing to have any more prevarications and just advise and be concerned and be outraged, which doesn't really get you anywhere. And secondly, that he bases everything around personal relationships, which is a very businessman-like way of doing things. He's made strong personal relationships with King Abdullah of Jordan, with the Emir of Qatar, who he worked with closely during the war between Israel and Iran. Those relationships and that mutual respect has allowed him to push these things forward and really does seem to have resulted in the best result that we've had in the last couple of years for hopefully bringing an end to this horrific war.
Leila, just quickly, we have maybe just a minute, but also Trump's evolution in terms of the policy, or maybe that is Steve Witkoff. But as we enter this next phase of these negotiations, have we also pulled back from the worst ideas, if you will, that were out there, a Riviera with no Palestinians in Gaza anymore?
We really have. And look, there was certainly a feeling at the beginning when Trump was throwing out these ideas like clear all the Palestinians out of Gaza and, build a new glorious Riviera, etc., that it was sort of an action of, I'm making suggestions. If you don't like it, then come up with something to yourself, to leaders in the region, which leaders in the region responded to saying, no, we need a proper plan. And certainly, multiple people in the region were really surprised when this 20-point peace plan came out at how much it prioritizes first and foremost the well-being of Palestinians, both in Gaza and in the other areas of the Palestinian territories. It talks about bringing in a new police force for all 3 areas of the Palestinian territories. It talks about moving forward towards having a technocratic government around those 3 areas. And there's even a suggestion of moving forward towards a 2-state solution. Now, Netanyahu is saying that will never happen. But the reality is, if we do move forward to a place where there's an international force, working in the Palestinian territories, while some people are calling that, colonialism light, the reality is that the more that control can be taken away from the Israeli government and given to Arab leadership moving towards a future Palestinian government where they are self-actualized, where they could potentially have a state, that's what everyone in the region, in the Arab nations and the Islamic nations, wants to see.
Leila Molana-Allen, Monocle's Middle East correspondent, thank you very much for joining us on a rare positive day out of the Middle East. And now here's Hassan Anderson with the day's other news headlines.
Thanks, Chris. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has been awarded the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize for keeping the flame of democracy burning amidst a growing darkness. The decision is likely to disappoint US President Donald Trump, who had publicly claimed he deserved the honour for his efforts to broker peace deals and end wars. Taiwan's President William Lai has announced plans to build a dome-like air defence system to protect the island from hostile threats amid rising tensions with China. Lai said there was a clear need to boost defence spending as Beijing steps up military drills and incursions near Taiwan. And the Michelin Guide is introducing a new system to rate wines. The move is seen as a challenge to established names such as Robert Parker, often described as the world's most influential critic, and aims to bring Michelin's esteemed authority to the world of wine. Those are the day's headlines. Back to you, Chris.
Thanks very much, Hassan. Now, just when Japan appeared ready to join the ranks of nations that have had their first female leader enter office, the pending prime ministership of Sanae Takaichi has had another wrinkle. Just days before Takaichi's expected election, her Liberal Democratic Party's coalition partner, Komeito, quit the alliance with the LDP, throwing the government's future into doubt. Well, I'm joined now by Monocle's Tokyo Bureau Chief and Senior Asia Editor Fiona Wilson. And Fiona, we have been covering for most of this week Emmanuel Macron's battle for Prime Minister in France. Does Japan want to give France a run for its money?
Good point, Chris. I mean, I feel the headlines have been, for the last week, Japan will have its first female prime minister. It might not. Let's look at that. The divorce happened today between the LDP, this incredible political force, which is slightly in decline now. And it really depends on this coalition with Komeito, junior coalition partner. And Tetsuo Saito, the head of that party today, said he's pulling out of the coalition. And they've been in coalition since 1999. So it's been a long marriage. So, it's a massive blow to the LDP and to Takaichi particularly.
It's been a long run, and when you look at the explanation from Komeito, they blamed it on this funding scandal that has been going on for a long time with the LDP. Is that the reason, or does this have something to do with Takaichi herself?
Well, they did flag before the leadership election that it would be a problem if she were to be elected. She's too right-wing for them. They don't like that she goes to Yasukuni Shrine. It's a very controversial shrine with the war dead there. And they don't like that. And she's talking about increasing defence spending. This is a party that's rooted in lay Buddhism. They are pacifists. They do not want to hear too much about these huge increases in defence. And they don't want to provoke war in East Asia. Hopefully Takaichi doesn't either. But, this is obviously an issue. They'd also flagged another candidate they didn't like, said too right-wing for them. This party, Komeito, is sort of soft conservative, moderate conservative. It's always been a slightly strange marriage, but in many ways they've said over the years that they act as the brake. They stop, the more right-wing tendencies of the LDP. They keep it in check. So, it is a bit of a shock. Yes, there is an issue about political funding that they're saying is the decisive factor. They did try to introduce legislation which would cap funding. It's been an ongoing issue. It's too tedious to go into right now. But the LDP has been dogged by this question of where candidates get their money. And the Komeito wanted to clean the whole thing up. They went in with the DPP, it's an opposition party. I mean, that is an interesting story in itself because who knows, the leader of that party may end up being prime minister. So, it's absolutely horse trading, I'm sure, in the background today. And who knows how it's going to end up.
Well, describe more of that horse trading then in terms of what happens next. What does Takaichi need to do if she does still want to be prime minister, or what does her party need to do if they simply want to hold on to power?
Well, I mean, the LDP has already been, and the Komeito have been running a minority government. Even together, they don't have a majority. But the LDP is still the biggest party in the lower house. It now needs to find another friendly coalition partner. That's going to be difficult. They're on the back foot. They're going to have to make some concessions they may not want to make. So the question today is, which party will it be? Some people are saying the DPP, this party with this Yuichiro Tamaki is the leader, rather charismatic, slightly divisive figure again, aren't they all? The other party is Isshin no Kai, which is a party that's done very well recently. It's been making a lot of noise about immigration. It wants to cap the number of foreigners in Japan. So, all this is up for grabs. But at the same time, you have, the opposition parties could coalesce around a single candidate themselves. They are a very disparate group, not natural allies in many ways. You've got right and left. One of them is Yoshihiko Noda, who has been prime minister, actually, in his time. Now, I saw him speaking quite recently, and I just got the sense this was not a man who personally wanted to be prime minister again. Very elegant man. But I just felt, no, this guy does not want to run the country. And it may be that he brings his party in with another party, and that the leader of that party could be the candidate for prime minister from the opposition side. So really today, everything is up in the air. It's a disaster for Takaichi, absolutely. And yeah, it will really unfold over the next few days. But at the moment, all sides are in play. And these smaller parties that suddenly did very well this year in the upper house elections, and some in the lower house elections as well, they are suddenly seeing their route to some serious power, and I don't think they're going to miss the opportunity.
Fiona, is there any chance that new elections would be held given this uncertainty you're describing with pretty much anybody who has prime minister possibilities in the running at the moment to become prime minister? Could elections be held instead, and who would win? What would happen if that did happen?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question that's not been answered. The plan is that whoever it is, will be elected prime minister. Now, it was supposed to be October the 15th. That date's looking a bit unlikely at the moment, and it may get pushed back. And what's traditionally happened in Japan is once you get a leader, they do a snap election just to kind of, really find a sort of firm foundations for power. Now, this would be a very difficult time to hold those elections. Nobody will want to hold an election. And if Takaichi can pull together some kind of coalition, I think she will want to just solidify her situation before she goes to the polls. It's very, very rocky at the moment. And I think it really depends what that coalition is. And, it's going to be a difficult coalition of people who don't naturally agree. And at the moment, it's interesting that both sides could be making coalitions with the same party. The DPP seems to be the key party here. And they don't, it's not a huge party, but they could go on both sides. Isshin no Kai, it would be difficult for the opposition parties to go in with them. With Yoshihiko Noda's party, they would consider them a bit too right-wing. So, yeah, I don't know. It's really like throwing dice. I mean, who knows what the numbers will be.
Just finally, Fiona, to zoom out quickly, what does this mean for Japan and sort of perceptions of political stability? Are markets, people outside of Japan going to be looking at this and worrying about Japan's politics?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good look, is it? And it's sort of the traditional view of Japan that this sort of, revolving door of leaders. Now, these moments of instability, and, in some ways it's quite exciting. Japanese politics can be quite dull in some ways. But so these people get very excited about these particular moments. I think they'll be doing everything to kind of pull it back into some kind of order. But yeah, I think the markets, as you saw, they liked the look of Takaichi. They were really backing her. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, this news has only just come out this afternoon. So it'll be interesting to see, how it all plays out tomorrow. When they wake up, what will the markets say about this instability? They won't like it, that's for sure. But it's difficult to say at the moment if Takaichi will, in fact, be the first female prime minister for Japan.
Fiona, I'm sure we'll have you on again in the coming days as some of this gets settled. That was Monocle's Tokyo Bureau Chief and Senior Asia Editor, Fiona Wilson. You're with The Briefing. This is The Briefing, and it's time now for a roundup of business headlines. And for that, I am joined by Bloomberg reporter Ewan Potts. As always, Ewan, good to have you back on the show. We're going to start with the ongoing U.S. government shutdown. And one of the interesting aspects of it is that it has left Wall Street in the dark when it comes to economic statistics, data, all that kind of stuff. But now there is news that one of the agencies at the center of this is recalling staff.
Yeah, Wall Street and the Federal Reserve. Well, Bloomberg has learned that the Bureau of Labour Statistics has recalled staff to prep a key inflation report. We understand that the September Consumer Price Index will be released by the end of the month. Now, this particular report is extra important because it's the month used to calculate the size of next year's Social Security checks. The exact date of the publication, well, that's a bit of a nail-biter for the Fed. The US Central Bank meets for its next interest rate setting meeting on October 29th. So they may or may not have this number in time. But for now, the Fed's really flying blind with much of the key economic data that they rely on simply not being published. As to the wider effects of the shutdown, well, that's really only just getting started. Air travel is emerging as the most visible strain. There have been flight delays linked to air traffic control, staffing shortfalls hitting airports right across the US. And there are concerns about food programs. The multi-billion-dollar Women, Infants and Children nutrition program is already running low on cash. And separately, the program which administers food stamps, well, that's funded until the end of October. And that is a program which is relied on, and this is an eye-opening number, by 41 million low-income Americans. So plenty to keep an eye on if this shutdown drags on.
And we'll see how much longer it does go on. But sticking with the US, Ewan, as well, even if there is a shutdown at the moment, there is one person who might be getting some money from the US, a package of support, Argentina's president, Javier Milei.
Yeah, Chris, when is a bailout not a bailout? The US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told Fox News yesterday that the $20 billion of support given to Argentina is, quote, not a bailout at all. Well, who am I to disagree? But it certainly has echoes of a bailout. The US has stepped in with a number of measures, including directly buying the Argentine peso. Actually, only a handful of times in history the US has done that before, so that's pretty significant in itself. Argentina's colourful president, Javier Milei, has, or at least until recently, had the confidence of markets. He's managed to get inflation down from a rate of nearly 300% early in his term to the current level of just over 30%. And he's got public spending under a certain amount of control as well. But investor confidence has started to drain away recently, with Milei's party suffering a stinging defeat in a key provincial ballot. And the nosedive that the peso's been on recently had really threatened to send inflation soaring again. Remember that when a currency falls, that makes imports more expensive. So that could have been a big problem for the Argentine president. Clearly, he is a big Trump ally. But as to whether the $20 billion non-bailout bailout proves to be good for the US taxpayer, I think that's a little bit more uncertain.
That's a whole other question. Ewan Potts from Bloomberg, thank you very much for joining us. You're listening to The Briefing on Monocle Radio. You are back with The Briefing. I'm Chris Chermak, and finally on today's show we are talking sofas, and more specifically designers on sofas, the title of a new book that has just been published by Monocle, and it does pretty much exactly what it says. It places designers on sofas, talks to them about their sofas and their designs. I mean, it really is as simple as that. I know you want to jump in.
I want to jump in because it does so much more than that.
It does so much more than that as well. But I should introduce, first of all, that who you are hearing so eagerly there is, of course, Nick Manise, our design editor, and our head of book publishing, Virginia McLeod, is here as well. Virginia, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's great to be here.
So, okay, Nick, you're so excited. I feel like I have to start.
I feel like you were underselling it.
I'm not underselling. this is the literal thing that it does.
It does that, but it does do so much more. And I just want that to be clear.
And we will get to that, but start with just where do we get these wacky ideas?
Well, this actually came from a magazine story we did last year that I reported, worked with Andrew Tucker, editor-in-chief, pulling together this story on amazing designers on sofas. Virginia saw that piece and was like, you know what, we can make this even better and we can turn this into a book. Exploring, initially we had 10, this has gone up to 50, but then it's for me as well, it's the essays at the back. There's a huge history of the sofa, an amazing compilation of 125 years of settee, is that how you say it?
Settees, couches, sofas.
Design. I mean, that was your...
Have you learned all these different words for sofas?
Yes, well, if you don't want too much repetition, then you do have to learn a whole linguistic library of sofa words, so that's been fun as well. But yeah, it was when I actually overheard some chat in the Monocle editorial floor that there was to be an article about architects on sofas, and I thought, hang on a minute, that's genius. We need a whole book on that. We need 100, we need 50. We settled on 50, and what a great lineup of 50 designers we have. I'm so proud of the caliber of architects and designers that we've got on board to do this. And they were all so happy and excited to be part of it. No one was like, oh, I don't know, or like, I'm not sure about that. They were just like, yes, I'm in.
100%.
This is more seriously, Nick. I mean, that's the point of this, right? I mean, I was making fun of it maybe at the start with that it's just this...
No, you weren't making fun of it, Chris. You were underselling it. This is the best book you're going to read all year.
But that's what's so interesting, because you have these amazing people that you got to do this who just, as Virginia said, really got so into the idea. I wonder where that came from. Was it they wanted to talk about their sofas? Were they more relaxed, more open by the fact that they were kind of talking in their homes? What was it?
Well, I think it is, we're talking to architects, we're talking to designers. These are people that understand what a piece of furniture can do for your life. And I think, a thing, I've had to write so many like little introductions to this for newsletters, for the magazine, for the book itself. And it's how many times can I say the same thing? And the reality is that the sofa is quite often kind of the biggest, most significant piece of furniture anyone will have in their home, maybe except for their bed. But we thought maybe designers in bed might be a little bit on the nose. So we've gone for designers on sofas. And, it is a piece of furniture that can define a room. It's probably the thing that can impact the atmosphere of a space more than any other item, I guess, certainly at least in terms of volume and mass. But speaking to these people, it's a realization that also furniture is a reflection of who we are, and our choices obviously can kind of dictate our behavior. It can be doing anything from, we've got Daniel Libeskind in there, an amazing American architect, and he bought this amazing Pierre Paulin sofa that was far too big for his space, but he was absolutely in love with it, and it basically made him give his own home a mini renovation. We've also got an amazing Thai architect, Chatpong Chuanrudamol, who built his own kind of bespoke window seat cum sofa, and that was almost making a point about kind of the culture and the lifestyle of living in Bangkok. It's this amazing multi-purpose, functional piece of furniture, which is what so much of Bangkok urbanism and Bangkok architecture needs to be. So we were talking to people that really have an understanding of how a piece of furniture can shape their space and their behaviours.
Virginia, I mean, looking through this book with all the different people and sofas we have here, I mean, do you have favorites? Do you have a favorite person or a favorite sofa or a favorite combo of designer and sofa?
I think I was just saying this morning to Stephen Holt, because I was in touch with them because I'd sent them the information on them being in the book, and they were so happy with it. And I said, I'm super happy that you're happy with it. But I think that's actually one of my favourites, because it's not only the couple who own the sofa, it's also their small children and their dog are all in the pictures. So you really get a sense of like family and home and real people living real lives, but also the history of their sofa, because it's a 1930s Joseph Frank sofa, and they decided to let their daughter, who was I think 9 at the time, choose the fabric for the reupholstery. So you get to see in the book how that family interaction turned out.
Nick, I think that is what's so interesting about this book, as well as Virginia's saying, like how the different designers took to this. Not only that it's in their home, but some of them, they brought their families, they brought their kids. They really wanted to show a lighter side of them, maybe?
100%. And I think, it's also a space where so much of, family life tends to unfold. Even I'm sure if you think of your own life, I'm sure you spent plenty of time on the sofa, probably watching baseball, knowing you, Chris Chermak. But it's
absolutely falling asleep on the sofa.
This is
sofas need to be.
It is a slow moving sport. It is a slow moving sport, and it will do that too. And I think that's part of the beauty of the game. But that's not what we're talking about. These are spaces, or items of furniture where you tend to converge together, but also places to rest. I mean, one of my favourites was Keiji Ashizawa, a Tokyo-based architect, talking to him about his own sofa, which he had designed. And what was amazing about that was that there were cultural strands to it. I was recognising that Japan is a tatami culture, and there's a tendency to kind of sit on the ground. So he designed the sofa to almost be the perfect height for an armrest. You've also then got, this is a space where he comes and watches news. He said he sometimes struggles to stay awake on it, but equally when he has a party, it becomes the centerpiece and the center point of the room.
Virginia, just finally, I mean, if you came up with this idea looking through the magazine and kind of seeing what's in there, what does that make you think for the future? Like, what other projects do you have coming up in terms of sort of special Monocle ideas?
Oh, well, so many on the list, Chris, and I can't share all of them because it's obviously a matter of state secrets. But I would love to do something on cars. I would love to do something on... Well, chairs
are a classic.
Chairs are an absolute classic.
Like we can develop a theme out of this, is what we're saying.
I think we can. I think we can.
We're ultimately building towards designers with bookcases so that we can get Virginia's full collection of designers on sofas and more on there and show as well.
Just a full collection of designers on stuff.
Designers on stuff. That's what we'll call the series.
Virginia McLeod, head of book publishing, and Nick Manise, design editor. Thank you both for joining us. That's all the time we have for this edition of The Briefing. It was produced by Laura Kramer. Our researcher was Joanna Moser, and our studio manager was Steph Chungu. The Briefing is back on Monday at the same time. I'm Chris Chermak. Have a great weekend, everyone, and thanks for listening.